The corruption of the soul is a far graver disease than any comparable disturbance in the air that surrounds us. During the rule of Marcus Aurelius, the Antonine Plague swept through the Roman Empire, causing the death of 5 million people. And yet, Marcus stood resilient, condemning the neglectful nature of mankind concerning how we treat one another and how that very neglect can torture and consume one's soul. And not to mention, it raises a very contemporary issue in today's society in regards to mental health. The timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and his enduring philosophy shines as a guiding light, reflecting a pragmatic approach to life, emphasizing the importance of accepting things beyond one's control. His teachings strictly adhere to self-discipline, rationality, and virtue, providing insightful allegories that are instrumental in understanding that moral corruption within oneself is a more serious affliction than any external turmoil or chaos in the world around us. It underscores the importance of personal integrity and the belief that maintaining a virtuous soul should remain paramount no matter the circumstance. In essence, voicing the enduring significance of inner moral health amidst the uncertainties of the environment around us. And on that note, The Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, with its unsettling 1980s New York City backdrop, is not infested with a literal plague of sorts. Instead, Gotham City harbors an insidious societal issue, an unseen ailment that metaphorically gives rise to monsters within its city streets, callously tearing away the fabric of humanity, one individual at a time. A contrived yet maniacal plague in itself, forcefully contorting even the most vulnerable citizen and in turn unleashing a cascade of madness. Arthur Fleck, who was brilliantly brought to life by the great Joaquin Phoenix, is a perfect case study to illustrate the notion that even the most unsuspecting soul can succumb to darkness.
Thank you, Brando. Thank you so much.
I just want to...
Arthur's characterization is a polar contrast to Hollywood's romanticized vision of a lead character, and for that reason, the world he inhabits feels closer to home. Nothing feels superficial at all. Todd Phillips is a man obsessed with detail. His meticulous approach to storytelling mostly goes unnoticed. Both Todd and his creative team sought out answers and methods to questions that the average viewer would never stop to examine in the first place. Infusing Gotham with characteristics eerily reminiscent of that of our own world, which in itself can very easily be described as a bottomless pit of uncalibrated complacency, Todd Phillips turns that idea into a spectacle. Throughout the film's 122-minute runtime, we are deliberately shown deficiencies within the status quo, which inevitably results in an uprising. I can't help but see the haunting parallels in relation to the French Revolution. The faceless entities that control Gotham operate discreetly, and yet they too embrace the same ostentatious energy as King Louis XVI and the many who came before him. An era of entitlement. The poor must stay poor and the rich must prosper, circumnavigating the dire economic and moral issues that have stricken the city, parading their wealth and blatantly ignoring their people. This correlation is made all the more apparent when considering the title of the sequel, Folie à deux, which sounds pretty French to me, oui oui. But hey, don't take my word for it, take a look around. Upon your first viewing, you may or may not have even noticed the damning contrast and how class is presented visually. And of course, desensitization plays a pivotal role in correspondence to the uncontrollable rise of social media, granting everyone quick access to an oversaturated sea of content, more often than not unrestricted and unvetted, tarnishing susceptible minds to the point where our viewing experience is somewhat tainted when watching a film. After all, when you are relentlessly bombarded with or seeking out disturbing yet covertly numbing content, it leaves no incentive to be shocked.
Police, get what you fucking deserve!
The human mind is powerful, but is also easily manipulated. We are programmed to take information in. The more we see or feel something, we become accustomed to it. It becomes second nature to us, and we feel comfortable. But comfort devours the passion of the soul. We stop to second-guess ourselves, suppressing that burning desire to improve, challenge, and even expand upon that, which is unexamined. And yet the film does everything in its power to give you the answers, at times in vividly flashy ways, and at other times in a more subtle manner that engages you to think.
She always tells me to smile and put on a happy face. She says I was put here to spread joy and laughter.
But not everyone can stop to question the ethics of Todd Phillips and his Gotham City when it bears a familial resemblance to what they themselves call home. To them, it's a normality, akin to peering through their own window. They are merely living a life that they have always known. Gotham's low-income zones are polluted with trash, a disparity when compared to the pristine conditions of the wealthy, implicating an aura of neglect, made all the more apparent with visible decaying infrastructure and not to mention the unrestrained heathens running rampant, depicted only to propose an environment ripe for the corruption of the soul. Similarly, the harsh streets of Gotham City bears a cold blue tint, a clear juxtaposition to the warm interior hues of the affluent complexes. We rarely visit them, but even then we never cease to overstay our welcome. After all, a safe haven from the extremities of the outside world is far too bold of a dream for Arthur Fleck to attain, further alienating his misfortune, a constant, unforgiving reality check. In pursuit of radiating a sense of realism, the creative team behind Joker not only constructed a map drawing a clear line between the wealthy and the poor, but took things one step under. By delving deep down into Gotham's treacherous underbelly, establishing a myriad of underground subway lines with the thought process of giving a reason as to why Arthur takes specific routes to get to certain places, and with such dedicated planning, it's no surprise that with every scene, every line of dialogue, it's seamlessly interwoven with purpose. No scene lingers on for too long, no scene feels rushed, it's like a symphony. The film beautifully transitions from place to place, and we're invited to chaos and carnage, but are equally met with empty moments giving us time to breathe, allowing us to process the cynical destruction of Arthur's life, one tragedy at a time, in turn building empathy and enabling us to connect with a broken man through universal feelings of despair and loneliness.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
This, of course, plays hand in hand with the fact that Arthur Fleck is a John Doe, so to speak. He can be anyone. That's where the real tragedy lies, but it's also the same reason why it's so easy to connect with him as a character. The very heart of the film is laser focused on the idea of perception. Arthur suffers from schizophrenia and more notably pseudobulbar effect, commonly referred to as PBA, and as a result, we, the audience, feel sympathy for him. When he's angry, we feel his frustration. When he's hopeless, we feel his sadness. When he's rejected, we feel his pain. Gotham City constantly belittles and berates him for his condition. Arthur is on a different wavelength. He can't seem to get in tune with societal norms, a palpable barrier separating him from everyone else as he pens his thoughts in solitude. This is synergistically emphasized when we watch Arthur having to walk up a near-endless flight of stairs. By design, the architecture itself very much represents his constant uphill battle with life as his mental health slowly but surely deteriorates. The film dissects the trials and tribulations that the everyday man may face, and how a negative environment can steer one's mind into calamity. We see this change occur gradually as we accompany Arthur, We watch him painfully survive each grueling day. We see his beaten down neighborhood. We see the comedy club he nervously performs at. We see the looming presence of Arkham Asylum. We see him work an unfulfilling job, constantly being pushed to the very edge of insanity. Todd Phillips made it a clear point for us. To live and breathe in his shoes, we see his mind collapse as Arthur begins to write a thin line between reality and fantasy, trying his best to fight back a relentless demon that begins to cloud his mindscape. A demon that will stop at nothing to disrupt and cleanse society in a way he sees fit. The Joker is widely depicted as the embodiment of chaos itself. Heath Ledger's unforgettable rendezvous with the clown prince of crime was a portrayal that fit the description tantalizingly well.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone.
But on the other hand, Joaquin wanted to explore and humanize what most people deem to be a freak of nature, a depraved monster with no restraint or remorse. See, Joaquin Phoenix is your favorite actor's favorite actor, and for good reason. He doesn't just act, no. He takes immersion to the next level.
I forgot to punch out.
We're talking about a guy who ate an apple a day and smoked cigarettes all throughout summer to attain the specified look Todd Phillips desired. But it doesn't end there. When Todd insisted for a nutritionist, Joaquin promptly replied with, "No, that's not how I do things." Fast forward a couple of months and he sat at a table read 50 pounds lighter. That do-or-die mindset is what separates him from the crowd. It's the reason why Todd specifically chose him for the role. No one else can convey that restless hunger and need to feel accepted, to feel like you belong.
Isn't it beautiful?
The artistry behind his method of acting cannot be understated nor replicated. Joaquin didn't rehearse the character with Todd in a traditional manner. Instead, he opted to take a more natural and organic approach. Joker is unpredictable, he's chaos incarnate, and he's a loose cannon, so it was only fitting for Joaquin to be spontaneous with his acting, to match the energy of the character he's portraying, and for that we must give credit to Todd Phillips too. Directors typically receive a bad rep, being labeled as massive control freaks. Stanley Kubrick springs to mind, but Todd's history in directing comedies such as the Hangover trilogy blended perfectly with the creation of Joker. Comedies revolve around improvisation, unscripted interactions among characters, allowing for humor to emerge organically.
We're on your side! I hate Godzilla! I hate him too! I hate him! He destroys cities! Please!
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Hey,
But Joaquin also acts in modulations. He offers variety, and as an actor, he also thrives on shifting the script when it feels right to do so. If Todd and Joaquin followed the original script word for word, this movie would be completely different, and there's one scene in particular that magnifies that thought perfectly. Precisely 34 minutes and 30 seconds into the film, we find a severely beaten and emotional Arthur running from the law, seeking refuge in a vandalized public bathroom. At this specific point in time, Arthur has well and truly hit rock bottom. He tries relentlessly to spread joy into the world, be it through comedy or visiting sick children, but something always tends to go wrong. And now, all of a sudden, he finds himself in a terrible situation where he has blood on his hands after murdering a group of men who attacked him. Once again, we are unyieldingly shown the cruel nature of society and how violence breeds violence. But a more nuanced detail refers back to how society reacts to conditions such as PBA, or any other visible condition for that matter, when they struggle to understand what it is. Since the dawn of mankind, the fear of the unknown has woven its tendrils through our dreams and realities. In reaction, mankind's responses often unfold in erratic, heedless patterns, oblivious to the potential damage they may inflict upon others, and Arthur bears the full force of it all, and can be described as a human punching bag. Arthur is human, but society brandished him as a freak. Gotham City is malicious, and if one lacks a moral sense of self-preservation, you can very easily be swept away by the current. Arthur, up until this very scene, was headed in that trajectory. Prior to his transformation, he was always visually presented as weak and frail, constantly being walked all over, but then all of a sudden, in a reactionary state, he learns to fight back. For the first time in his life, he finally feels a semblance of power, a feeling that he never quite felt before. Now, originally, Todd Phillips planned for him to hide the gun and flee the area, confident in maintaining an aura of fragility, but Joaquin felt they should delve even deeper by engaging with the setback as opposed to running away from it. This monumental shift in mindset is the reason why this scene is the turning point of the film. He enters the bathroom one man and leaves the bathroom a completely different one. But how well was it executed? Well, from a psychological perspective, his mental state should look something like this: a flurry of emotion. His future is in tatters after all, and his mother's health is steadily declining. And yet, it is astonishing to see how remarkably calm he is, all things considered. Arthur should have no hope left in him, but he does. He begins to dance, and the choreography is hauntingly beautiful. Each step, every hand gesture externalizing his grief and suffering, a culmination, a visceral expression echoing a lifetime of pain. As the dance progresses, certain movements become more exaggerated. He's funneling his pent-up rage with elegant strides, but this is no ordinary dance. This is a celebration. He feels alive. This is Arthur embracing his dark side, a facet of himself he had long repressed, only to now find strength in its formidable presence. The dance can almost be viewed as a summoning ritual as the Joker latches on to Arthur, and by the end of the dance, Arthur stares intently at the mirror, only to see the Joker looking right back at him. This is the moment where he becomes one with the Joker, accepting his identity as a symbol for rebellion. This is how to supersede and transform a traumatic event, evolving a mundane approach to character development into something truly special and multidimensional. Todd and Joaquin understood the immense challenge of bringing a character like Joker to life in such a unique way, but when simplified, it comes down to this: humanize what has always been demonized. Arthur and Joker are quite clearly two different personalities. Take a look at how they're depicted, how they're dressed, how they're filmed. Arthur is unclean, disheveled. Depression has certainly taken its toll. He strictly wears muted garments to help him blend in with the crowd and to go unnoticed. His fashion sense is fairly basic and minimal compared to the flamboyant colors of the Joker, who is always well groomed. The transition is organic. He feels powerful as the Joker, so it's only fitting for him to dress the part. The Joker, unlike Arthur, wants nothing more than to stand out in the cold mess that is Gotham City, and the iconic red suit designed by Mark Bridges does just the trick and can be described in 2 words: deceivingly glamorous. On the other hand, Arthur's body posture and mannerisms compared to the stoic nature of Joker would make anyone believe that they're 2 different characters from entirely different films, in large part due to the sheer magnetism of Joker, who is often filmed in low angles to broadcast his strength and swagger, in contrast to Arthur, who at times is confined to high-angle shots to encapsulate an air of vulnerability. There's a clear distinction between the 2 characters, but at times they even overlap. Arthur wears a layer of his Joker suit when he goes outside to parade as a human billboard. This minute detail effectively unravels the idea that the Joker has always been a part of Arthur. And that certainly got me thinking. Did Arthur always have the Joker in him? Was he always forsaken to be a ticking time bomb, or did his impending wrath solely serve as revenge for all the mistreatment he endured from society? Or perhaps a mixture of both? This, of course, is open to interpretation, but screenwriters Scott Silver, great name by the way, and aforementioned Todd Phillips do an excellent job in capturing the chaotic beauty of rebellion as a steadfast response to Gotham's ever-present attitude of ignoring and mistreating the less fortunate and the marginalized. And for that reason, the Joker stands tall, and not alone. Illuminated by the fiery embers of retribution, he is the embodiment of disruption. But if I were to take this even deeper, the Joker in this contained microcosm represents a part of every one of us, a burning desire to stand up for change. Our world, very much like Gotham, is filled with injustice, with poverty, war, and inequality. And if you truly seek change, you must react. Now, it being a film, it takes that very human element and somewhat over-dramatizes the whole ordeal, but despite all the noise and mayhem, there's an underlying story that incites contemplation, a story that yearns to educate. As Arthur navigates the bleakness of existence, the film becomes a study, depicting the erosion of morality as the line between external disturbances and internal corruption blurs, leaving an indelible impression of the fragility of the human soul in the face of a callous world, further reinforced by its depiction of rejection, humiliation. It reveals the profound impact of societal neglect on an individual's mental and emotional well-being. The crumbling cityscape and the apathetic stance of society act as catalysts for the internal plague that consumes Arthur's soul. But from the ashes of despair, shrouded by smoke, the Joker emerged as a protective manifestation, a chaotic guardian forged in the crucible of desolation, and in their twisted unity, they defiantly stand, not as adversaries, but as two polar extremes who share one common goal: revolution.
Hey, my man! If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe for more spectacular videos. Thanks for watching!